Hello, everybody. Welcome to Between the Lines. Let's see, we're up to tonight's Thursday, the 15th. I almost forgot Valentine's Day. That would have been tragic, but we're in the middle of elections. Not Valentine's Day, but, we had early voting start. We had so many things going on. If everybody, before we talk to the mayor of Anderson County, Terry Frank, I want to remind everybody to get out and vote, whoever you want to vote for. But the polls are open 9. Excuse me, I'm choking on my Coke. 10 to 6. Every county's different. 10 to 6 and 9 to 12 on Saturdays. And we'll go through Tuesday, February 27th. So, Democrat, Republican, no matter who you're for, Haley, Trump, whoever. Still got some VVAC on there. I went yesterday. Sorry, folks. I think it'll be a medium turnout. That's my call, but I don't know. Welcome, Mayor.
Yeah. Great to be here, Alan.
Scott got choked up right before we went on the air. So we're going to talk about a lot of things Anderson County. We'll talk a little bit about federal and state stuff like we always do because we've been working on these things since 1994. That's 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been a while. And it's been a long time since. But I went to ate dinner at Buffalo Grill. Then it's really nice. I mean, I go maybe once or twice a year, but that's where it all started. That's why I was trying. The walls are a little different, but it all started.
Still having wings at Buffalo Grill.
Wings?
Chili lime are my favorite, the rub.
I had something different. I think we had some kind of like cheese ball sauce, but they were good. They had something else in them. They were like little round stuff. So I recommend the Buffalo Grill to anybody. Try it down on the east end of town. How are things in Anderson County? I mean, fiscally seem pretty good.
Fiscally, everything's going well. Things are just busy in Anderson County. Busy in Roane County, busy in our cities, busy in East Tennessee, busy in the state of Tennessee. Mm-hmm. So.
Well, let me ask this question to start out, because Sean Gleason and I are real close friends, so he keeps me up to date on all these visions of the future. And hey, he's got that energy, 45-year-old energy.
Yes.
He's very bright, too. I like Sean. And he thinks the world of you. We got this new thing we're doing with Anderson, Roane, the cities, America. Tell us what that project is. Or it's not a project, but
right.
Kind of a vision for the future.
Well, I guess, well, at least in my time in office, and since I've been paying attention, I can't think of something where all three entities have joined together and passed the same resolution. Essentially, it is a resolution where each of our governments are resolving to partner together on all things related to nuclear, workforce development, maybe identifying how to partner together on a master plan, and just capitalize on a lot that is going on at the federal level and the state level with regard to nuclear energy. Wow. So, yeah, Roane County passed a resolution. Anderson County passed it unanimously. I understand from Councilman Gleason, they passed it unanimously. So, yes, while it's symbolic, we are having meetings where we're putting action items on a list and knocking some things out. So,
well, it's more than, when you pass a resolution, it's more than symbolic and idealistic. It's more of a, here's the direction we agree to go forward.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think, most of it's in Roane County. I mean, when I think of it,
yes.
I have to be honest. I think a lot of potential in Roane County. We're kind of landlocked in Anderson County. But we have some potential, too. We got some things going on. And I guess when you look at it, Y-12 is the only real plant in Anderson County, correct?
Yes.
I would say that.
Lab is in Roane County.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
One of the things the resolution did mention was Bull Run Steam Plant, also Kingston Steam Plant, and how do we draw those into that nuclear arena as well and maybe repurpose those sites. Definitely the majority of, whether you're looking at the DOE land, the projects, East Tennessee Technology Park, Heritage Center, Horizon, choose the name, I call old K-25 site.
That's what I was saying.
That's all Roane County, but it's that theory, Alan, that regionally, if one does well, if Roane County does well, then Anderson County's going to do well. Knox County's going to do well. Morgan County's going to do better. So, it makes sense to partner. We both have Oak Ridge. Oak Ridge is at the epicenter of this. I mean, you know, if we look at the history of our region, you go back to Anderson County was a rural agricultural county. And Roane and Anderson were private acts. 1801, we were carved out of Knox and Granger County, rural area. And then you had, you know, the TVA Norris Dam project, where the government came in. They said, here's going to be the genesis of our Tennessee River Valley project. They built the dam. They displaced a lot of folks. They brought in a lot of folks from other places. That was in 1933. In 1945, here you go with the federal government again coming in and saying, we're going to start the Manhattan Project here to end the war. So in both of these cases, you have, you know, people, you have families, you have workforce that have served very well in national roles for national significance. In projects that have gone on to impact the world. And so I think this is really just a continuation. What we're talking about now with the focus on nuclear energy is we're going to carry on, you know, that impact. We're going to show that we can continue to do something major like nuclear energy.
Well, and you know, I work in that world and spend a lot of time with management at some of these plants and everything, and then obviously some in the political world. And I think there's been that development, that movement by Governor Lee and the movement by others here locally to form this new committee and then get some people on those boards. And I think the federal government's getting involved as well as the $50 million commitment. I think that's the way that Congressman Fleischman had it organized from the beginning. He's working close with Governor Lee to try to get this thing melded in. So there's a lot of potential here, and I appreciate Governor Lee for looking to Oak Ridge to be a leader in that, in Anderson County, and you and others on that, because you're on that committee. I mean, a lot of people are. And so, I mean, it's not a large amount of money in our world. I mean, you know, we just got a continuing resolution. We just got CNS got 2 more years, which they deserved, I think, by the DOE. And so, but that's a $4 and $7 billion, you know. So when you think of $50 million in that boat, not a lot.
Well, you know, Alan, at the end of the day, I mean, these are this issue impacts real people on a day-to-day basis. That's so, you know, I look to Winter Storm Elliott when we had the blackouts over Christmas, and you know, that was a real wake-up call that there's not endless power available. And we've kind of taken that for granted in the South. In the state of Tennessee, you know, when it comes to energy, you don't shop energy. It's not, do I want to use Wayfair, Amazon? Do I want to go, you know, drive over to Walmart? I mean, you've got one place to plug in, and it's TVA.
That's right.
And
if you look at their record from the beginning to the end, we've been very lucky in the South.
Absolutely, yes. But you look at the growth and you look at what's happened in the nation. We also have a lot of focus on moving away from fossil, and you know, what's that next viable option, and what do we need to do? Tennessee is in a growth trajectory. You know, I can't remember the stat. Governor Lee mentioned it during his State of the State, but I think Bloomberg had come out several months ago noting that for the first time there were 6 states in the South that were larger GDP than all of the Northeast. And, you know, it just, we've brought manufacturing here. We've got folks coming from all over the nation, and you have to have energy capacity to address that.
Sure.
And even this year, during that cold snap that we had with the snow and the ice, we were in a position where we were messaging, you know, maybe wait to wash your clothes to, you know, the next day. And we came through it. And
I called a friend of mine, executive at TVA. I said, scheduled blackouts, question mark. He said, not this time, Alan.
Yes.
So I was lucky. Well, we were lucky, I think, in that situation. But you're right. You have to be ready for it. And it's a macro look at a bigger issue. Like when you build subdivisions, you have to build sewers and water and other things to get there and to get that water there. And we're growing. And Oak Ridge particularly has an ancient infrastructure.
Yeah.
We still got pipes that are 50, 70 years old in side streets and stuff like that. So you have to have a way to pay for that. And
Yeah.
people like you and I who are conservative, low-tax kind of people have to realize at some point in the equation we have to invest.
Yes. Well, and I think, if we become the place, whether it's, supply chain for the nuclear energy business, or whether it's actual, production of nuclear energy at the Clinch River site in Roane County, one way or the other, in that is a lot of opportunity for our area. And so, we have challenges just like any other county or state in the nation. I mean, we have addiction, we have mental health issues, we have schools, we have the water and sewer lines that you just mentioned. And, that's where I get excited about not just what nuclear energy could mean, but then what does it mean to help us solve problems for our people locally? Those resources are going to come along with it. So.
We got a lot to work on.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you look at the overall Anderson County, I appreciate the understanding of what we're trying to do there. When you look at the overall picture and you start looking at our government, our growth, how is our infrastructure? Do we have areas that are already developed for growth, commercially and residentially? Where are our needs? What are you happy about? Where are we prepared?
Oh, well, goodness. So infrastructure, one of the things about...
and I say that outside of Oak Ridge.
Sure. So I think there are challenges with growth. I mean, you're starting to see, you still have areas in our county that are very rural. We're seeing a lot of rezoning requests at the Anderson County Commission level, and you see some pushback there. Some folks who want housing, who want affordable housing, or new growth or development, and then you have folks who say, well, this has been, a farm forever, and we don't want a bunch of folks moving in here. So I don't know that we're necessarily ready for all of that. We're just starting to see some of, maybe conflict is too, but it's a clash of direction. And I do know that our county commission, we have some commissioners that want to discuss that, and we've got another strategic workshop planned, and that's going to be one of the topics there. Infrastructure, one of the things, the American Rescue Plan that came out of D.C., Tennessee, and I'll say this for water and sewer, Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation did something that was very proactive, and they said, we want every utility to do an assessment, and it's an infrastructure scorecard. And as a government official, it's been very beneficial because, I'll use Anderson County Water Authority as an example. On occasion, I'll make time to go sit in one of their meetings, or I go and we'll meet with the general manager there, or the president, and sit down. Where are we on projects? What are you looking at? What's the state of the system? But there's not this overall really full understanding. Well, when the state of Tennessee said, okay, we're going to put all these dollars out with the American Rescue Plan to let you improve your system, address, issues, but you've also got to do this assessment. Well, now you've empowered a lot of local communities with, oh my gosh, I didn't realize, this was a deficiency in the system, or this was an area of need, or these lines have needed replacement for this long. So that's been really cool finding that out.
You like the assessment tool?
Oh, I love it. And in fact...
They're not all good. That's why I was asking that.
Well, yeah. And, I mean, you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And, I think a lot of the utilities look at that as, they're holding their heads in shame. Here are our flaws. Yeah, but your governing bodies need to know what your flaws are.
Absolutely.
If we're going to fix them.
Absolutely.
Or if we're going to help, or if we're going to partner and pull in the same direction. And so I love it. And I serve, currently on TASER, which is the Tennessee Advisory Commission on Intergovernmental Relations.
Right.
We're actually looking at infrastructure and wastewater and sewage and all of those things. And during recent testimony, I asked, are you all going to take this and do anything with the scorecard beyond? And both TDEC and ECD, which is Economic and Community Development, said, yeah, we're going to start using those to help with grants and how we focus, because they want to focus on the trouble.
Three-star community stuff.
Yes,
A little bit of that.
yeah.
We're going to take our first break. We will take a look at our sponsors, get a few commercials in, and we'll be right back to talk more Anderson County with Mayor Terry Frank.
Daniel Forrester has been trusted by Anderson County families for nearly 2 decades. Daniel has appeared in Anderson County Chancery, Circuit, Sessions, and Juvenile Court thousands of times over the past decade. A Rule 31 mediator, Daniel has been trusted to mediate hundreds of cases across Anderson County. A community leader, Daniel has worked closely with local officials to make Anderson County a better place. A conservative and dedicated husband and father, Daniel's faith has shaped his character and integrity. On March 5th, vote Daniel Forrester for Anderson County Chancellor.
From Oak Ridge, Tennessee, IB3 Global Solutions conducts operations around the world to enhance the U.S. national security posture and minimize radiological and nuclear threats. IB3 Global Solutions. Mission first.
Fan Gear Barn is Oak Ridge's source for new and vintage sports fan gear from around the world of sports. Find your favorite team gear at Fan Gear Barn, located at 977 Oak Ridge Turnpike, across from the hospital. Open 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., 6 days a week. Closed on Sundays.
At Navarro, we partner with our clients to advance clean energy and deliver effective solutions for complex challenges in the nuclear and environmental fields.
When should you get tested for COVID-19? You have symptoms of COVID-19, such as runny nose, congestion, sore throat, fever, cough, shortness of breath, muscle pain, headache, chills, or loss of taste or smell. Current testing recommendations say everyone should get tested immediately if they have symptoms of COVID-19. If you have symptoms, be sure to follow recommendations about how long to stay home and away from others. For more information, visit our If You Are Sick or Test Positive webpage.
All right, crew, let's get started. All right.
Don't ignore the law. You must call 811 at least 2 to 3 days before any digging project so you can avoid hitting our essential buried utilities. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811.
Welcome back. We're talking about Anderson County, 2024, growth, shifts. I want to comment on something you said, Mayor. I went around, I have a lot of clients across East Tennessee and outside of my main job, my consulting work, and I went to every election committee. I like to, more of an academic like you, I like to go talk to them before the season starts so they know who they're talking to. So I was in a couple of counties in Middle Tennessee and a couple of counties in East Tennessee, rural counties. And I said, what's the biggest change in the last 2 to 4 years? And everyone said the same thing, massive registration of people moving in, doing stuff. And Congressman Fleischer and I were talking about it in Hamilton and other areas where people are coming in from all over. And it's pretty interesting. People that are moving into the cities tend to be more progressive people, liberals, whatever, that are moving out of the cities, they're moving into the Chattanooga areas, others. Whereas if you go out into Cumberland County or McMinn County or Monroe would be, and Polk would be a better example, or some of the counties that we worked with in the last 22, they tend to be more people moving here to be in a more conservative area. Conservative is probably not the right word, but more of their value systems and everything.
Right.
So it is a kind of a polarization with both sides moving out, but they all have one common denominator, and that's it's economically affordable.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's the big thing. But the growth was in Anderson, I think. I think there's 2,400 homes in the last 2 to 4 years that are now that aren't in our databases, that are new, that we have to put in our databases. Growth is, and it's not really consistent with any type of community. It's everywhere.
Yes.
Tennessee's just growing.
Well, and it's, I'm not following all the bills in the state legislature, but I do know there's a big move, for instance, and I'm going to use Rutherford County. It's one of the fastest growing counties in the
Has been
nation.
for 20 years.
It used to be Williamson and Mayor's Rogers Anderson there, and theirs finally cooled off, and now it's Rutherford County. And some of these counties want impact fees, and that's not, it didn't pass the legislature last year. They want to use that as a mechanism to stop growth, and what the legislature has said is we want to take a closer look at this. So they've been looking at, not necessarily impact fees, but housing affordability in general. And that, we've got, families that need a place to live. And when you've got all of these folks coming in from other places, and some of them are retirees, and then we love having them here. But then it creates this, market disruption for housing. And so there's a lot of ideas that are on the table. I'm interested to see what Governor Lee has in mind. I picked up on him mentioning something about permitting in his state address. I don't know what that's in reference to, but zoning is one of those issues that a lot of times the affordability is tied to what your zoning requirements are and how many homes you can build, on so much space. So it's really being looked at.
Doing a lot of work in Knoxville now. I didn't used to, but Knox County. It's the big issue. Homeowners associations versus residential expansion and commercial expansion. I sit down and listen to candidates all the time, and basically that's the central issue in Knox County is, are we going to let builders continue to pour into our neighborhoods and build all these communities and grow at a faster than preferred residential rate? Tell you a Rutherford County story. When I was still with the county back in 2002, we were working on waste management contract. Mm-hmm. So I was working with waste management to see what kind of fee. I was just trying to study and learn. I went to Rutherford County to see the mayor. I think it was 02 or 03. And I went back in there and I talked to him. He was a him at that time. And I asked him, and he said, Alan, I've passed a wheel tax. I've passed property tax increases. You can't name a tax I haven't pushed on these. And it just keeps growing and growing and growing.
And they still have a waste issue in Rutherford County.
Yeah, they do.
I think since we're mentioning that, and I won't bore you too much with
That's
some
all right.
details, but I did bring just a couple of graphs for, this is the affordability index for our Knox metro area that includes Anderson County, and you can kind of see, I don't know if folks can see
Can
that.
you get in on their brand?
But you can see where the affordability has gone down.
Uh-huh.
And then this is your housing inventory, and
Not many.
there you go. Then your growth, the growth record for rents, and you see where we are. And then land costs are rising, so
What is the blue and the orange then?
So this is 2012, blue is 2012, orange is 2021.
Are those, what are the different categories there that we cannot read?
So that is, we're looking at,
Areas?
this is the Knox metro
Okay,
area,
gotcha.
and then here's Anderson County.
Okay.
And then Blount, Knox, and Loudoun, so each of those.
Interesting.
And then this is just a couple little data points. Home prices increased 16.7% in 2022, the steepest increases in the counties that are adjacent to Knox. And then the Knoxville MSA ranked number 6 for price growth in 2022 among 150 top U.S. housing markets. And this is from, national data, and it's put together by the East Tennessee Realtors Association, which they would be. There's a guy named Hanson Sale who would be a great guest for your show.
Okay, Hanson Sale.
Just, he can get into some of the details on that. But, you look at trying to find, if you've got a business and you're trying to, I talked to some folks at UCOR, for instance. They had someone who was a great employee where they, the rent, tripled. The individual couldn't afford that particular rate and could not find any other place to go. Wanted to even come here, but could not find anything. And so, this is a big issue.
One of my passions is the St. Joseph Pantry down at St. Mary's, and every Wednesday they have food packages for people and everything. And the line has gotten to where it goes all the way down the building and turns. There's so many people in need, and I'm going to relate this to housing. And I look at it, and I was there yesterday delivering some groceries. I'm looking, and I would say the average age was 75.
Oh,
I mean,
really?
just 80 people. It's older, and I wonder about their housing needs and how that's unfolding for them. Now, some of them probably have houses for a long time,
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera. But I mean, just pressure is being felt in a lot of areas, and I don't know. I don't know.
Well, to exactly your point, Alan, so
Okay.
this is from their data from East Tennessee Realtors. In 2021, the annual income needed for your median sale price, including your down payment, closing, the interest rate, annual income needed was $55,677.
To get what?
That's to get the median, that's a median sale price, which, I mean,
To qualify for the loan?
yeah, like to make your monthly payment. So if your monthly payment was $1,392.
You would need to make at least 55,000
Yes.
gross.
For 2022, that number is
That's more.
$88,808.
I was
So
going to say that's pretty.
you got a
cheap.
$33,000 plus change. And did your wages increase that much in 1 year? No. And so the housing prices are just going up, far quicker than wages. And, what is that? I don't know. It just creates, I always liken these things to
Do you think
the
that
Shriners.
the housing prices? Okay, we got three or four major things going on: inflation, COVID.
Yes.
And other things.
Yes.
But do you think the housing prices went up based on the fact that there's just a lot more people and there's greater need? Or do you think there was other external factors that I just don't think inflation's a big role in tripling your house cost in 2 years.
I think inflation is somewhat a factor. I think, I'm in the camp that there's also a little bit of currency devaluation going on as well. I've asked, we at TASSER, we've had a lot of panelists who are experts in this arena, and I've asked, how much of this is just waiting for the market to catch up. You had, with COVID, a lot of people decided to look at their lives and make a decision. Do I want to stay in this business? Do I want to stay living where I am? Or do I want to go someplace else? And we've seen a lot of people come to Tennessee out of COVID. And is some of the issue just waiting for the market to catch up, and we're going to see those prices, come back down? I think the land issue.
I don't think it's going to happen. In
Yeah,
Tennessee.
well, I mean,
I've
you
read
got to look at, we know we had some price increases, with COVID for building materials. A lot of those costs have come back down, not to where they were.
New
But
construction, okay. I could see it coming back down a little bit, but I think it's just Tennessee's such demand.
yes.
Maybe
yeah.
they'll go down to Montana,
Yeah.
but I don't think they're coming down here.
Well, Wall Street Journal just, I think about a week and a half ago, had an article about Knoxville. It had, this particular article was talking about commercial debt being held by banks and where there were issues with commercial buildings in a lot of downtown cities across the nation. And that article noted a couple of the highest vacancy rates. I cannot recall, Alan. I think one was San Francisco. The other was Austin, Texas. But then the biggest drop in vacancy, meaning the buildings are filling up, one was a city in Maryland. I want to say Columbia, if there is a Columbia, Maryland. I'm just going by memory. But the other was Knoxville, Tennessee. So, I mean, big changes coming here. If we're ranking, we're filling up our commercial buildings in downtown Knoxville and in Knox County.
We've always prospered off the Smoky Mountains, I think, and you go Sevier County up. It's just such a beautiful area to live. My good friend Charlie Ergen lives in the Rocky Mountains. Obviously, he's a pretty public figure, but he said, if I didn't live in the Rocky Mountains, I'd live in East Tennessee. They're the two most beautiful places I've ever lived, and I think there's some big truth to that. I think it sells itself. Now, my house went from, I'm going to estimate, but my house went from $220,000 to $350,000 in assessed value, really in a matter of 3 or 4 years.
Yes.
It was crazy.
Yes.
It was crazy.
Well, I can remember, I don't know about you, but we had a home mortgage, and back after the 2008 crash with housing, I can remember the bank coming out and reappraising our home and making sure that it was truly worth what it was worth, and they were, fine comb inspecting our front porch.
What are they going to do if there isn't?
Yeah.
I mean, they're the ones that gave you the money.
Yeah.
They
Well,
can't take it away.
I guess that's what they were doing, truing up their books.
That's good. I thought they might come out and say, we don't want to borrow anymore or something like that. You see in the auto industry, too, you see a lot of different changes and stuff. I mean, you can't buy a car in the old days, we could buy a pickup truck for $3,500, $4,500. I mean, old days, 8 or 10 years ago, $5,000. You can't get anything.
Yeah.
They're just not available. I mean, it's just gone. But you went to the point, before we took another break, you went to the point of availability is an issue.
Yes.
In pricing. Not just in housing, but if you can't build stuff, I know Rick Chin told me last year it takes a year to get an electrical panel. Now, this was 2 years ago, but to get electric because of supply chain problems.
Yes.
Is it better?
I think it's starting to get better, but it's still a major issue. I can think about the city of Clinton had a couple of traffic lights. There was a component. They had the poles out there forever. They had the arms out there. They had the light, but they did not have the guts of the mechanism to make it work, which is frustrating for citizens. They're thinking, yeah, sure, you're waiting 2 years. Well, yeah, we are. I mean, and the wait on things like ambulances, 2 and 3 years, Alan, to get an ambulance.
How do the ambulance sellers make any money like that? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. That's another thing the state is looking at. I mean, it's the same thing for fire trucks, a lot of the first responder equipment. It's an issue. I don't know.
I went down, I was sitting with my friend, the one on the show periodically that you like so much because he's so academic, and he said, we can't go to war with China. They make every medicine we have except for 2. He said we'd be out for months, people would pass out, die, whatever. He said, and then goes to the next thing and the next thing. I think we need to refocus on domestic production of stuff. I just don't.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't see it. We're going to take a break. Come back, talk about localized stuff a little more. These are regional and national issues that impact us here. But we're also going to talk about schools and local things and local governments and buildings and stuff. So we'll be right back.
Has been trusted by Anderson County families for nearly 2 decades. Daniel has appeared in Anderson County Chancery, Circuit, Sessions, and Juvenile Court thousands of times over the past decade. A Rule 31 mediator, Daniel has been trusted to mediate hundreds of cases across Anderson County. A community leader, Daniel has worked closely with local officials to make Anderson County a better place. A conservative and dedicated husband and father, Daniel's faith has shaped his character and integrity. On March 5th, vote Daniel Forrester for Anderson County Chancellor.
We should never lose sight of our health. To keep moving forward, let's not forget everything we've learned. Limit the salty food options. Make your own daily exercise routine. And always receive regular checkups. More than anything, we have learned how important these small steps can make a big difference. So we can all continue to move forward together.
All right, crew, let's get started. All right.
Don't ignore the law. You must call 811 at least 2 to 3 days before any digging project so you can avoid hitting our essential buried utilities. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811.
From Oak Ridge, Tennessee, IB3 Global Solutions conducts operations around the world to enhance the U.S. national security posture and minimize radiological and nuclear threats. IB3 Global Solutions. Mission first.
At Navarro, we partner with our clients to advance clean energy and deliver effective solutions for complex challenges in the nuclear and environmental fields.
Fan Gear Barn is Oak Ridge's source for new and vintage sports fan gear from around the world of sports. Find your favorite team gear at Fan Gear Barn, located at 977 Oak Ridge Turnpike, across from the hospital. Open 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., 6 days a week. Closed on Sundays.
Welcome back to Between the Lines. Once again, it's February 15th, 2024. So when they dig this up later in life, and I'm not here anymore.
In the time capsule.
Yeah, we'll know when this happened, right? We've been at this a long time. We got a county commission. We got an Anderson County School Board. Let's just talk about local government.
Sure.
Politics 101. How's everything working? I really like the superintendent. I mean, to
Dr.
me,
Parrott?
I think he's genuine, to the point, and everything. How our public schools are, and this is a difficult thing for you and me because we're all over this politically, but how would vouchers impact our local schools?
You know, I don't really know.
The fairness
So,
of it
yeah.
doesn't matter. You still got an economic cost. I'm not asking whether we should or shouldn't have vouchers. I mean, there's a great argument for it.
Right.
But the question comes down to it's still a cost to the public schools,
Yeah.
so we have to, as a government leader, have to figure out what that impact would be.
Yes.
And that's what I don't have a grasp on.
You know, I don't know. So I don't know. I haven't run any kind of numbers. A lot of it is really conjecture because we don't know. One of the things I would like to see or look at myself is, you know, we have 2 city school systems inside Anderson County. So we are very different compared to most counties in the state of Tennessee.
Yes.
So, in a way, we almost, you know, there are a lot of folks that send their children to city school in Clinton that are actually zoned for county. And then the same with Oak Ridge, and Oak Ridge accepts tuition. Then Campbell County, we educate a lot of Campbell County students because it's kind of, you know, it's like the Roane County. Rocky Top has both Campbell and Anderson, and for some it's just easier. So we have quite a few that actually attend Lake City Elementary and Lake City Middle.
How much do they pay for that?
Well, I mean, they're getting the BEP dollars for those children. They're not paying any kind of tuition.
Okay.
So, you know.
Is it legal? I guess it's state of Tennessee, but I mean, is it legal for me to sit there in Rocky Top Elementary and educate a kid from Jacksboro off Tennessee dollars? Oh, you're saying that he would be, even though he lives there, he would still be seen in the Tennessee school BEP. I got it.
Yes, so
We get the
Anderson
money.
County is the recipient of the BEP dollars.
To educate that child.
Yes.
Their share of it.
And, you know, you look at, so same thing, you've got Morgan County, Roane County, Anderson County, and that Oliver Springs is, you know, touches 3 counties. There's some, you know, swap going on there. So what we're trying to figure out would be, well, what's the percentage of parents that are already, you know, I'm going to use St. Mary's as an example.
That's where I was headed next.
Some of them are already at St. Mary's. They would just be a beneficiary of any kind of change. But what's that number that would depart the school system for a private school?
And is it a full tuition swap on the tuition, or
I
is it half? Or
I
is it
don't
a
think so. And you
If
know,
you can't
I have,
afford, you and I both send our children to St. Mary's, and if you can't afford, and we would both say a wonderful school, but if you can't afford $800 a month, you might be able to afford 3 or 4.
yes, yeah.
So really, the only real consequence, in my opinion, I mean, the public schools are gaining off our paying them, and not, we're still paying for both, would be the real consequence would be a lower BEP measurement for funding.
Yeah, so they would lose that state funding for that child in that seat.
So if they lost 40 or 60
Yeah.
more, it might be impactful.
You know, I follow this topic, and you know, I really need to look. I don't know if the actual legislation is even out there, I'm ashamed to say, here on February 15th. I do know that this is an issue that, I mean, gosh, Alan, as long as we've been having political discussions, this has been an issue in this nation. And one of the things I mentioned at our county commission level was, you know, it is something that is happening, and there are a lot of state dollars, you look at the surplus in the state of Tennessee, that are willing to reward people to innovate. And I guess my position is, let's figure out a way. You look at what happened with COVID. A lot of parents had their children at home, and then they decided, we like this, and they've gone to online learning. You know, that exodus is already a reality where we're seeing a loss of students in some of these classrooms. If you're in the public school area, you know, I guess I would like to see them work more to, how do we bring those students back? Do we share? Do we bring them in for science lab? Do we take advantage of a partnership? I mean, you know, it's like there's almost this, it has to be 100% or nothing. Yeah. Well, we can change, we can innovate, we can do things a little bit, we can share a classroom.
I can remember there were kids at St. Mary's in Caleb's class, and my son, who were homeschooled half a day and came in to take math and science at St. Mary's in the afternoons. They could do the same thing at Linden or somewhere else if they could adapt a vehicle for that.
Yes.
I think it needs to be pointed out right here, we're talking about this, that you, even more than me, have been a big supporter of public schools. I mean, we've worked with schools, we've tried to build schools, and if you know your history, you know that originally, especially in the Catholic school system, but in others too, basically the mission was poor people. There were private schools and all in 1880s in all the upper neighborhoods, but in the poor there were no public schools. They couldn't get, so the private schools took a lot of that. It isn't like private schools were sitting over here educating only rich kids, that we always get that rep.
Right.
But they had a different mission in the cities and things. So I mean, you have to look at the shared history and everything that's gone on, and the need for public schools and public education to make that's the strength of our nation. And I think we in Oak Ridge and in Anderson County and in Clinton, I like Kelly a lot, and we have good school managements, and they do a pretty good job with everything. And I think that, to be fair to Anderson County, they have a real challenge. I used to say that about everything, ambulance, sheriff. You wrap the horseshoe, you go all the way around. How do you cover that? I mean, how do you patrol that? I mean, it's very hard, and in schools especially. Yeah. In schools especially.
Well, and you know, one of the things, Alan, I guess I look at this, you have to look at the totality of the issue and recognize that there are areas in our state and across the nation where you have 0% students proficient at a grade level in math or reading.
That's scary.
Or you have 7 students, you know, in a whole district who are proficient. And I guess this is one of the areas where I think you have to have the public educational system should be partnering with your officials, saying, we're going to help you address my counterpart over here. And I don't think that happens. And I think that's kind of why we get officials pushing things like a voucher system, because if the school system can't come up with a way to address the areas of deficiency, then we'll have to do it for you. And I think that's what you're seeing. So it's this reluctance to admit that, there are deficiencies in some areas. And
you better
maybe it's not my school, but it's someone else's, and I need to help partner and help get that fixed, or look what will happen. So
I think it's a tough job being a teacher, and I think it's
a
tough
yes.
thing. But there's a qualitative difference between Nikki Swisher and other people. I mean, to be honest, I picked Nikki out of North Middle. This person goes to work every day and is going to get the job done no matter what it takes, what they got to put into it or whatever. And you get over here and you got the same thing. We both had the same, I mean, let's go back to Mrs. Saga. I mean, I'll take all the Miss Sagas I can get. I saw her last weekend. I mean, she quit the same year my kid graduated, and I'm so happy. But I mean, just keep going. But just some quality people who really teach at a level. But we have those in the public school. There's just not enough. I mean, it goes on. But I appreciate every teacher in the public school system. The special ed challenges, the public schools are a great opportunity that a lot of private schools don't have. It's costly. It's harder. But I've known some great special education teachers. So public schools have a lot bigger burdens sometimes, and opportunities and joys too. And please, but I'm saying
it's
the budget-wise. When I say burden, I mean budgets.
At a very basic level, it's what happens when government funds something. Government puts in place the rules, and that's one of the frustrations you'll hear from teachers or the administrators. When do we really get to do, teaching how we'd like to teach? We don't have time to do that because we're having to check all the boxes, that are created in the state house or the federal house. And, that's where I think, too, that it would be nice if, maybe there's an incentive-based system where your classroom or your school receives extra funds. You come up with a way to teach differently. One of the things that's been interesting to me, Alan, and I think I went to a Boys and Girls Club fundraiser recently, and two of the speakers, and I'm not going to mention who they are, but very prominent individuals, one in the school system, one an official, both were bragging on the students or the staff that they had in the after-school care at Boys and Girls Club that could help tutor and help the children with their homework. But both of these individuals mentioned the new math and how difficult it was. And, an educated, professional degreed official said, I can't do it. And with my sons, I just, thank goodness, they've got a great teacher.
Does math really change?
And
that's not a change.
Then the administrator from, a local school system said, she was being very lighthearted, and she laughed and she said, I don't understand it either. Fortunately, I've got good teachers. There's something wrong.
Yes.
With a math system, if as a parent you can't help your child with basic math, and the administrator of a school system doesn't fully understand the new math, and I guess I get frustrated looking at that. If something is too confusing, where there's not a multitude of people in the community that any one of them could step forward and help a child with basic math, then maybe that's not a good math system.
We're going to take our last break, but I'll tell you this. I tell people come to me all the time and say, what's the one thing you should do? You get old, they ask you, well, you're like smart and everything. And they ask you what you should do and all that kind of stuff. And they asked me, and I said, if they like to read, they can recover at any point in their life.
Yeah.
If you can read. Now, math gives you great technical skills, and if you're going to do something really targeted, but you're very productive, medical, you got to have it. But if you can read, there's always a place for it.
Yes,
you got to read, carry a book around, do something. So that's where I'm at. One more break, Chandler, before we go to the house.
Daniel Forrester has been trusted by Anderson County families for nearly 2 decades. Daniel has appeared in Anderson County Chancery, Circuit, Sessions, and Juvenile Court thousands of times over the past decade. A Rule 31 mediator, Daniel has been trusted to mediate hundreds of cases across Anderson County. A community leader, Daniel has worked closely with local officials to make Anderson County a better place. A conservative and dedicated husband and father, Daniel's faith has shaped his character and integrity. On March 5th, vote Daniel Forrester for Anderson County Chancellor.
From Oak Ridge, Tennessee, IB3 Global Solutions conducts operations around the world to enhance the U.S. national security posture and minimize radiological and nuclear threats. IB3 Global Solutions. Mission first.
Fan Gear Barn is Oak Ridge's source for new and vintage sports fan gear from around the world of sports. Find your favorite team gear at Fan Gear Barn, located at 977 Oak Ridge Turnpike, across from the hospital. Open 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., 6 days a week. Closed on Sundays.
At Navarro, we partner with our clients to advance clean energy and deliver effective solutions for complex challenges in the nuclear and environmental fields.
When should you get tested for COVID-19? You have symptoms of COVID-19, such as runny nose, congestion, sore throat, fever, cough, shortness of breath, muscle pain, headache, chills, or loss of taste or smell. current testing recommendations say everyone should get tested immediately if they have symptoms of COVID-19. If you have symptoms, be sure to follow recommendations about how long to stay home and away from others. For more information, visit our If You Are Sick or Test Positive webpage.
All right, crew, let's get started. All right.
Don't ignore the law. You must call 811 at least 2 to 3 days before any digging project so you can avoid hitting our essential buried utilities. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811.
Okay, we're going down to the last segment. I can talk to Mayor Frank for hours. Of course, we have for hours in the past. And she is probably, and I will say this, and you know me, I don't pull punches, but she's probably one of, I'll throw a few more people in there, but she's probably one of the 2 or 3 most educated mayors in the state of Tennessee. And she provides a great leadership for other young mayors, and she studies the issues. She reads them, and she understands them. And we're lucky to have you. We're lucky to have you. I know Governor Lee loves her. He thinks she's great. And we got other things. And that helps when you're applying for funding. I'm just saying. That's not her talking,
Well,
that's me. But
I don't know about any of that, Alan, but
let me do my talking. I know everybody in the state. I'm in the business. So let me say this. And when I go to other counties and I talk to mayors and sheriffs and different people, they all say, we love Mayor Frank. Now, let's say this. We have a lot of roads under construction, a lot of things people might want to know about in their neighborhoods. What can you update us on that stuff?
yeah, so one that folks in the viewing audience probably are interested in is that widening of Edgemore Road, and that goes through Claxton, but also covers part of the area in Oak Ridge that goes to Hall Ridge, and you got a lot
So it
of
goes
new
over
housing.
the bridge. Okay.
Yes,
Up
yeah.
up on the road.
So they have divided that project into 2 sections. The first section was originally going to start in Claxton. They've done a flip on that so that it'll start on the Oak Ridge side first, because there's much less right-of-way acquisition to deal with there, and the city owns quite a bit, TVA, and then I think the plan, the TDOT plan, is to hope for both of them to be bid at the same time and be under construction at the same time.
Tell me what
So-
expansion means. What are they going to do?
So they're going to widen it, and it'll be 4-lane.
Okay.
They're going to
From the bridge at Edgemore to the ramp to go on Pelican City?
yes,
Okay.
yes, and
Okay.
then also from the bridge to the light at Claxton Elementary.
Oh, that's good. Right there at
Yes.
Waggles.
Yep. And then you'll have not the entirety of the corridor, but in sections of the corridor, you're going to have sidewalk, and then you're going to have a shared use path that'll be bicycle, pedestrian
Oak Ridge got a
path
bit.
for the whole. That'll be the whole corridor, including the bridge. And they're also looking, you've got the closure of Bull Run happening, and I don't know ultimately what's going to happen. TVA.
Are they going to close the whole stack down? Is it going to be just zeroed down to the ground, raised to the ground?
I think they were looking at keeping some equipment, but otherwise the majority of it.
Can that be developed?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So they've also looked at doing, and unless their plans have changed, it was in concept to put some, community amenities down by the river there. So you already have folks that love to walk on that greenway on Milton Lake Drive.
Yes.
And so what's envisioned is being able to go under that bridge and have a connector to the other side where a lot of folks like to fish, but maybe put some kayak launches there. Do some more amenities, maybe a little building down there. I don't know if they end up following through with that or not, but part of the whole plan with TDOT is to make that, fit in with the rest of what's going on with Melton Lake. So a real community corridor there. So
Okay.
that's happening. I'm sure folks have been seeing that the state of Tennessee has been doing a lot of resurfacing projects throughout the city and the county, which has been very nice, having, some fresh pavement.
Excuse me, I forgot to get after something I need to get after. I don't know who's owns the road in front of Walmart. The road that runs between McAllister's and Walmart, I don't know who runs that road. But I've had to repair a tire and a wheel, and other people are calling me, whoever owns that needs to get that fixed. I can take them down there with this wheelbarrow, and we can mix some concrete, whatever, but there are 4 or 5 potholes that are car destructors. They tell me that the city does not own that road. What'd you say back there, Brad?
5 minutes.
Okay. So anyway, we got 5 minutes. So anyway, I'm going to find out who that is, and we're going to keep talking about it like we did on New York until we get it fixed. But, I mean, it's horrible. I mean, they are.
I will find out. I will find out. So the city does not own it.
That's what they tell me. But when you don't want to fix something, you say that. But if you're coming down and you turn in left where the comfort end's on your left, and you go all the way down that road, restaurant road there, when you go in the first half of it, there are potholes that are this deep.
I know. I met my mom for McAllister's yesterday.
Yeah,
at
it's
McAllister's.
horrible. It is horrible. It is horrible. So anyway, we need to get that fixed. Go ahead. Now you go back. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. I mean, let's see. I'm trying to think anything else.
Development, subdivisions?
There are several that are in the works. Some of it will have to go to Planning Commission. Some other things that are going on. Our county commission, one of the things, this is really cool. It may not seem that cool to the average citizen, but once if they dial 911 and want response, this will enhance response and interoperability between all the government agencies. The county is going to a new system where our county commissioners use some of their ARP fund to fund radios for volunteer fire, ambulance, sheriff's department. Some of those agencies had already gotten some through grants, but that is a huge step forward for our county and is really being talked about in other communities in terms of.
And how is that better than other communities?
So for instance, if you are working a fire and you are taking care of a particular scene, with some of our agencies, they cannot communicate with each other on their radios. They're on different systems. So this puts them all on the same system. They can all talk. If they're doing their own thing, they can have their own channels.
Yeah, okay.
So it really is next level in terms of
Can you give me an example? Claxton's fighting a fire in Claxton, and they need to get a hold of somebody else, so they would have their own channel. What other agencies would a Claxton Volunteer Fire Department need to talk to?
EMS, Emergency Management Agency, Sheriff's Department. I'm trying to think. Hamlin County was really, to my knowledge, the first to really get started with this. And Commissioner of Safety David Perkey kind of came in and helped them make this happen. That's something. I'm trying to think something else. Oh, the commissioners are meeting regularly, doing some community outreach on where to spend the opiate dollars. So the counties.
Yeah, Shelley's got that group, right?
Yes.
Up in Lake City or something.
So that has the potential to make a large impact in each and every community because that continues to be a massive issue, Alan, in our county. Yeah, yeah, definitely.
It's different. And I was talking to my friends, all of the fentanyl, my wife was arguing with me, if you can imagine that. But she was arguing with me, and she was right, and I was talking about actual coyotes coming in the country. But she was saying China's the biggest problem. I said, no, there are no Chinese coming in the country. Man, like me and Ernie Senator looking for Chinese. But bottom line is, when you read the story, they produce all of fentanyl. They ship it to Mexico. Mexico gets it in here. There's some other ways, but that's a predominantly a predominant issue. So it's going to be a big issue.
Yes, absolutely it is.
I don't know. I've been involved in helping in some district attorney races and some judicial races, and everywhere you go, it's a big issue. You see it in every county.
Well, everybody is a chemist now, and they're making new. One of the things, there's like an animal anesthetic or something that we're seeing on the rise and is responsible for a lot of overdose deaths. The issue with it is, with the opiates, or fentanyl, if you're able to get to them in time, you can use the Narcan. But this particular drug, Narcan, does not work.
$3 a pill is what it costs on the street.
Wow.
It used to be 20, 30, 40 for oxycodone. 10 seconds, Mayor. What do you got to say? Anything?
Well, I just think we live in a great county, a lot of exciting things going on, and I'm so appreciative of you and all the information you give to the
Trying my
community, Alan.
best. Go vote. We got a great mayor, folks. Bye-bye.